Good morning, Rainbow Guard. I hope you're doing well today. This is Paul. I am a little bit in a numb position right now because we are expecting to have a visitor later this weekend and early next week, and her name is Irma. And unfortunately, she is the strongest Atlantic hurricane that has ever, in recorded time, been knocking at anyone's door on the East Coast. This doesn't include a storm from the Gulf of Mexico, which possibly would have been, in only a couple of cases, like Camille, would have been stronger. But I look at this all very wistfully because the time spent on the landscape was probably more, oh my goodness, I don't know how many hours. I think after I come home from work, I probably still spend 3 or 4 hours on average every day. And it's going to be a bit of a culture shock to see that we're going to be missing a lot of the focal points in our garden. And I don't think that the reaction that I have right now would be unusual. It's a great loss, obviously. So this is where we stand. Hurricane Irma is going to be arriving with all her winds probably sometime on Saturday night here, and then all through Sunday, and probably a bit on Monday morning, depending on how fast the storm goes. And this is what we're dealing with, friends. This is our latest GFS model from the National Hurricane Service, and you can see that this is a powerful storm with that fiendish, almost doll-like eye in the center. I've always thought of these things as alive. They really are. And there's a little bit more asymmetrical look, which indicates that the east is probably not going to be the strongest side at this point in time yet. But it's expected to make a turn, and we want it to be certainly a turn before it gets to Florida or the Bahamas. But we don't know that right now. But this is our baby Irma. She's a bouncing baby hurricane, and she really has us in her sights, as they say. Now, how do we know where we stand on these kind of things? Well, the National Hurricane Service probably 4 times a day now puts out proposed tracks for tropical systems. And there's a little bit of an encouraging shift to the right that there wasn't as of the time I went to bed this morning at 4 o'clock. We see that there looks like there's going to be just a skirting of the coast, our coast, which is not necessarily what we want to see because it's so highly built up. But then it seems to move up the coast of Florida, which couldn't probably be any worse when you think about it, because it's so highly built up relative to the west coast of Florida. They'll get their damage there, but we're going to get more. I don't know, and they don't know at the center for forecasting what the wind speed will be then. It depends on how much of Cuba it goes over in the highlands of Cuba. But right now, this is a major change, and it looks like it gives us a bit more hope for something that we will survive without having total devastation, as was the case with Andrew back in 1992, and what we just saw in Texas, the Rockport, Port Aransas area, this will be a Category 4 when it hits southern Florida, and we have a lot more population in our area than South Texas does, so it's something that we want to definitely be sure of. Again, this is only Wednesday, so there's a lot that can happen, but right now it's getting a little bit better looking. We'll see. It's got to make that turn to the north as soon as it can, so we have a chance to not have the devastation that will drive this area into a true panic. Now, this is the simplified version of this tracking system here. Looks like you see the last point that's marked with an M. That still means major hurricane as it gets to Jacksonville. Well, there's a lot of sorting out of computer models before they can get something like that. This is the mess that you work with before you get to some kind of a consensus on where this beast Irma is going to go. I mean, you don't even see Florida there, but you have to take their word that they're averaging that out to give you the track that they come up with. And when you simplify that track, that mess of spaghetti tracks, then you get a more simple, more understandable hurricane model tracking map. Like I said, it looks a little bit better for eastern Florida because the strongest side of a hurricane usually is the north and the east. If we could miss that, our friends from the Bahamas won't be so happy, but that's something that would indeed help our situation here in southern Florida. I was at the gas station last night at 3 in the morning. Yes, 3 in the morning, after finding, I guess, 6 gas stations that had red leather handles on their pumps saying no gas. And I just happened to say, well, let's try this one more, which was way out almost in the Everglades. There were about 10 cars parked at the pump. I said, that's a good sign. Well, then I saw a lot of yellow tape that went all around the gas pumps, which was not a good sign. Well, evidently, a few minutes before I got there, the proprietor of that particular Chevron service station, I believe, was probably telling people that they were going to get a truck to fill up more fuel. The truck was there after 2 o'clock, and then the backlog of about 150 cars start to be able to get some fuel, limit of 10 gallons. I filled up one 5-gallon can for the generator. If we do use that generator, it's a gasoline power generator. It's never been used yet, so I'm hoping it works. But if it really gets nasty in our part of the state, I will think about using it. Well, that's where we go from here. And then from that model run, you're left with, this is the one I kind of gravitate to because it sort of negates a lot of the foolish chatter, if you will, the noise, and just cuts you down to just a few basic track models. And as you can see, it's starting to favor more off the East Coast or just barely on the East Coast. I live 26 miles from the beach, so normally you would say, it's no big deal. Well, the hurricane winds, the eye wall is 25 miles wide, so if the hurricane was to just skirt the Atlantic coast, say in Fort Lauderdale, or from Miami Beach up for that matter, we would still get a pretty good amount of wind, like 150 miles an hour is what I'm thinking. So the further it goes east, the more we're likely to be just in tropical storm wind field ranges, which is enough to do damage, obviously. But that's what we're facing now. Now, why are these things turning up like that? They are because, in a fairly timely fashion, we hope there's a big cold front, first of the season of major cold front, looking to dip itself all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. That would bring a low pressure center right along that particular feature. And since hurricanes just follow between lows and highs to get their steering, they're really basically pretty helpless when it comes to moving, as you found out when you saw Hurricane Harvey. And that's our saving grace. So we'll all be watching I didn't put up any of the hurricane shutters yet. We have accordion shutters, so it's easy to do, but I don't want to live in darkness right now. And so, folks, that's my that's my trials this day. And as I said from the beginning, when we started living happily gay, we don't really have, and you'll find this to be true too, we don't have a lifestyle that is any different from any of our straight neighbors. There's a time to party, and then there's a time to be real. You know, when you get to be about 60, you really don't give a damn too much about getting all pretty and going out and having you know, some drinks, with the overpriced drinks, I might add, with some friends at a bar. And that's kind of the way Brad and I feel. I mean, it's just, we don't have the time. We come home exhausted, happy, but exhausted. So, you know, the home becomes everything. It's a nest. It's our source of strength. It's our source of pride for getting to know what we do and why we do it so conscientiously and judiciously. We do everything we promise and so much more, and which is why we're the top of our own respective businesses. I did not really want to do a small business when I was first getting involved with leaving a corporate life back in, I guess, 2004. But it grew on me. I mean, I lost a lot of benefits like company car and gas card and things like that, but I don't get yelled at anymore. And I love taking care of my best clients' gardens. It makes me feel very zen. It's quiet. I don't have to worry about anything that's likely to cause me to have some other situational distresses from the outside world, like bumper-to-bumper traffic on the area freeways, or working for a manager, as I once did for Johnson & Johnson in the pharmaceutical company. Regardless of how you felt about your manager, you had to do things differently. And you were scared. I mean, he sometimes worked with you 2 days a week, sometimes he worked with you 3 days a week. After that second or third day, I think we were both exhausted, and I was, you know, flying high, so to speak, but it just got to be too much. So that's why Paul turned his sights to being a full-time horticulturist, as I am deigned to be with my BS in ornamental horticulture from Rutgers. I don't really have a lot of regrets going into the world of heat and humidity and mud and backbreaking work, because I love that. I'll do it myself. I always have. I guess I was smitten by the plant bug, probably. I'd say when I was 8 or 9 years old. I think my grandmother was a gardener. My father's entire family were gardeners, and my mom was a great gardener. So we all had that in us, and it was, you know, it's good. It's good to know that you are creating something that makes the environment healthier, better, more beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. It's been said that when you garden for purposes other than food, you're doing one of the highest artistic endeavors that a human being can become involved with. So I'm proud about that. Anyway, it's about Eastern Daylight Time, about 1 p.m. on Wednesday, and I don't know what the rest of the week is going to be in terms of busyness. That's why I want to get back with you guys and gals and let you know what's going on here in Southeast Florida. If you're a person that tends to want to pray, please do. We would appreciate that, as our other 4,500,000 citizens of South Florida would agree. But never forget how important you are to us. And if I have a lapse of a few days, I'll take some film and I'll show you why we had that lapse, which mostly means we were cleaning up. Take care, my friends. Be safe, be good. Know that you're loved. Know that we feel you're the best friends that a body can have. And thank you so much for being faithful and subscribing to Living Happily Gay. We love you guys. We love you very much. Bye now.